And let's run it. So today, guys, we got another episode of the Red Line Podcast. Today I have the wonderful Steve Schmidt, who is also an ex-fractional sales leader like myself, and now has gone on to more interesting things, more credible things, and more things that gives him the prestige that he deserves. So I've known him for a long time. I know a lot about him. He's a fantastic guy to learn from, and he's making a lot of changes right now in the B2B sales industry. So Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you. Who are you? What are you doing? Why you do it?
Shane, my man, thank you so much. I am Steve Schmidt, CEO and founder of Magentic. What we do, I would say, was one of those things where I learned what not to do. We both, we're in the lead gen game. So that is a grinder business. And I think going through that was the benefit, right? Like you got to go through that shit way in your life where you're like, that's not the way. And I've heard it from like a lot of performance marketers, like that's how they got their start. And they said, that's not the way. It's not the way just to get appointments and have that pressure is insane. And I was like, man, it just killed that creative side to me. And I was a very boring, money-driven lead gen. I barely survived razor thin margins. Like I just became this person. I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, fighting for pennies, like arguing with people. And I was just like, this isn't who I want to be.
Exactly.
And, I own my piece in that. And I was like, man, I was really only worried about like winning all the fucking time. And I like to win. I love to win. You love to win. If everybody loves to win, we can't all win.
That's very true.
I mean, there's 88 to 200 million people. Like, there's a lot of great, brilliant people. So I kind of shifted to like, if I own my own thing after, we'll get into that, like after a disastrous and failed merger, was like, while I was hanging out down low, which was, I deserved to be there, if anything, to get time to think about like, man, what did you do and how did you do it differently? Is I came in and it wasn't about, oh, I have better margins. I have this. It was like, yes, I need to be profitable. Inevitably, it was, I knew I couldn't have employees or a large employee base because that was not joyous to me. I wasn't great at it. Like I was not a process person. And so I just came into it differently where I said, I'm going to use the thing that we built that company with, which was content creation, to help other founders create the same thing. And now we branch into podcasts, YouTube, curation of podcasts, post-podcast event, like tying that to the CRM, and then putting the muscle behind it. And then as I'm working with these founders to ghostwrite for them, we're getting their content, their story, and now we're creating a funnel. And now it's that awareness, and you start to go, well, then what? How do we get these call to actions and outbound motions to start to sound like the same thing? And you and I both know most founders come in, and when you say, well, what problem do you solve? They're just like, what do you mean? They've never been asked that question before. I can't write for you, man. I have no idea what you do.
It's very true. And I could not agree with you more. And look, and in another sense, one thing I did realize very, very quickly in the outbound space, and I had an argument with my co-founder about it. I went through a really shitty situation last 6 months, January to April. April, we actually hit $1 million in sales revenue, but I lost my whole company. I lost the whole company. And what I mean by that is it got to a point where February, March, we were down on payroll. I told the team, look, I can't afford to pay you guys, so I can give you half a pay cut, or you can go find another job. They said, we're going to stick around. Okay, cool. So we stuck around. It didn't get that much better. And then I had to get my co-founder to resign. Other people left. And then fortunately, I did get two of my staff a good job with a private equity firm. So that worked out well. But it was just the grind of, we speak to, let's just use the average metric of, we speak to 100 people a day. We get those 2 conversations where everybody's trying to claim these 10. What is that? 10 a week, 40 a month. If we do a podcast and 100 people view my podcast every day, I'm now in 2,000 people's minds versus the 40.
And you can keep going in their mind, like, because your shit is able to be passed on. And when you make a cold call, that shit's dead when it's done.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that leads us into really the next segment, Steve. And for me, my most profound failures in life, opiate addiction, uh, prison, rehab. Then the biggest failure was coming to this country and being a security guard and trying to conform in terms of living with the Joneses. I lost my personality. I lost who I was, and I had to build myself up from scratch. I would say the biggest failure in my life was taking opiates for the first time, but it has shaped my future today. And without that experience, I would not have the resilience, I would not have the strength, I would not have the courage to do what I do in this business and this market today. So for yourself, if you were able to, there are people that are really struggling and they do go through those failures. What is a profound failure that you significantly remember? It's very distinct and it helped shape your character, who you are today.
To summarize a lot of failed things, including, a couple failed marriages, call it a failed business, and I'll get to this, is I feel like our failures are the lessons that are equipping us for the next thing. And those of us who fail big need, unfortunately, for those around us, at least seemingly, failing big is the only way we'll learn, whether it's the ism of the pain pill, right? Or whether it's the ism of the alcohol and the benzos, or the isms of money. Like when it crashes down, it feels like you're so alone and there's nothing you can do. It feels like that's when the lesson starts to reveal itself. And so that failure for me was time. And I want to be clear with this, tying my success only to money. At a very young age, everything was, if I am at the top, then I am the best, then I am bulletproof. And creating this real false bubble of security, right? When I never really had much. I mean, I had all this money and I would spend it. And then, drugs and alcohol are, obviously doing to everybody. So I think the biggest mistake, if I had to sum it up, was not getting sober sooner, because I wanted to avoid the inevitable, which was not that bad in hindsight. Those of us who cross the line are always just like, it wasn't that bad. Oh, fuck yeah, it was. It was really bad.
Yes, it definitely was.
And I'm not going back there because we can it every day, right? So for me, I think now, and it's the people I hang around too. Like my girlfriend, I got divorced about 7 months ago. I just started seeing somebody and so I'm trying to surround myself with people who I can make better, and they can make me better. And when I first met her, she was like, "Man, you talk about money a lot. Not like you're obsessed with it. You're concerned with it." She's like, "You have a scarcity mindset with money, and that there's never
exactly
enough."
like you. I'm exactly like you.
So that mindset shift for me is not the other side of failure, is feeling the abundance of, call it money, the abundance of money to fuel a business where it doesn't take a lot to fuel a company of one. But the company is more profitable in 6 months than my lead gen company was in 18 months, and I had 50 employees. So, you start to understand that you don't need all of the, call it, employees. Sometimes you just need the skill set, Shane, like you have, I have, and you accelerate that with great freelancers. And then it works. And you start to go, shit, man.
I wish I did this earlier.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And I picked up on that too. Like, a couple of people asked me, would you ever do it again? And look, God's honest truth, I would never do a startup again. I would never, ever do a startup again. If I were to do anything, I would buy or invest in a profitable startup and hire a CEO and take the money. I would do it that way. But yes, the effort, the grind of building a startup and training employees and hearing their bullshit and then them blaming you when you are trying to do everything for them, I'm just not for it anymore. I just do not have it in me. I don't need that stress. And like you said, there are so many ways to make money in this day and age without having a huge team, huge overheads. I got one of my paychecks from a client the other day, and it was so relieving that I got a 5-figure check, very, very large 5-figure check, and I didn't have to give it to anybody.
And I hate to say it, but you were doing all the work anyways. And we know that. And lead gen is like marketing firms. Like, you get someone who's smart, They hire good people who come in and just want a job. It's not bad on them. And then we're running 1,000,000 miles per hour with this vision, and they're going, man, this guy's fucking insane. And then they roast him on social media.
Yeah.
And then we keep going, and they're like, man, this motherfucker's tough. He won't quit even when I blast him on fucking Reddit. And you're like, no, bring it. Like, I go to Reddit and just like, I show my son, like, look at what everybody thinks of your dad. And he goes, geez. And I'm just like, internet's fucked up, man, isn't it? And
it
like,
is.
I'm like, they want you to think that's who I am, these 20 people or whatever. But I'm like, but if you look at actually what I do on it every day, I'm giving shit away every single fucking day that's worth, call it money to people, and they can take the advice if they want. Some people choose to pay me to get more intimate with it. And those companies right now are fucking killing me. And they don't want anybody else to even know. And as a matter of fact, we just doubled down and expanded each contract by 200% because they said, it's Q4, let's fucking throw down because the everything's working. YouTube to LinkedIn to inbound. I saw this video. I saw Sam McKenna on this podcast. I had no idea who you guys were. Hey, do you guys do negotiation training for the enterprise? There's an $84,000 contract. It's just like boom, boom, boom. This shit didn't happen in lead gen. It didn't happen.
No, it does not.
It
does not. Mate, you are so right. You are so right. And I have seen you, like, I don't know how you do it, but you pump out some fucking serious content every day. And I don't even know if the audience knows, but you do it for many founders, even Amir. Amir's following has gone through the fucking roof from the work that you did with him. So look, mate, it makes a huge, huge impact. And it's very inspiring to hear that you have the resilience to get through those. Because I heard bad things. I saw bad things. And I was like, not everybody can be true. And then I got it. And I started to get backlash on LinkedIn for some of the things that I did. I'm thinking, mate, you guys have no fucking clue how hard I worked to make sure you got paid. And I didn't eat because I wanted to make sure you were good. So that leads us on to the next segment, which is through failures, you get learnings. And one of my biggest terms that I dub in the Redline Hustle podcast is accelerated learning. And that's failing extremely fast and failing forward very quickly to pick yourself up. So in terms of a learning experience that shaped you today, a very, very impactful, profound learning experience, can you explain what it was and how it helped you today?
Sure. So I can talk about this, as you know, to a certain degree. I uphold legal contracts. Some people choose not to. Long after the war is over, and so I look at it like my biggest failure, number one, is on me, right? It's always on me. And it's thinking that there is a golden parachute. And this idea of someone showing interest in you and acquiring you and it being like this perfect equity thing and everybody's happy and everybody gets what they want, and that was just a dream that I had. And some could say it's self-serving, right? Sure, I wanted to make a bunch of money while I was doing all the fucking work. You're goddamn right, But, trying to tee it up to get people other pieces of the pie, seeing people double their money in a year, paying for people to relocate that. And then, when it crashes down, which is okay, that's all forgotten, right? Now you're the enemy. Now you're the enemy. And then I sat there for 6 months and then I heard about the next enemy and I went, okay. Public enemy number one is not me anymore. It's the person who lied to you this whole fucking time. So out of that, I learned I would much rather try to not talk to people behind their back in a negative way and just move on. So what I've tried to do to make myself better is someone calls me and says, hey, I heard this about that person. Move through it, right? Unless they're saying like, hey, I'm going to buy something from them or they want to work with me. And I would go, whoa, stop. I've heard this. I can either verify or not that it's true because, man, I've heard so many terrible and great things about everybody. Everybody, whether it's Sam McKenna, Justin Michael, or whoever, you've heard the craziest stories. You start to go, well, these are kind of crazy after a while because I've heard so many versions of the same. And if people really want to know, I would say, listen, I failed in business. I'm looking at massive paperwork for, let's call it financial failure. I moved across town, went through a divorce, lost my family. Had no money, couldn't pay my bills, got everybody paid that needed to get paid in the manner in which it was supposed to happen. And they still kicked me when I was down. And I'm like, I'm still trying to do the right thing. And through that
Hats off to
grind,
you.
like you figured like, and that's okay. Because out of
Yeah.
it, I came out this, like, I just started walking and thinking and like, you know, choosing to say like, whoa, okay. This is the thing that impacted me most was if what they did felt like it hurt me, what I did to them must have hurt pretty bad.
That is
Because
huge, dude.
when we punch, we always punch one notch up from when we just got punched. So I stopped thinking about the impact of the punches that landed on me and started to try to free up some real estate in my head and my heart for, well, what did I do to them? What feeling did I give them that I let them down, that they would want to hurt me so bad?
Wow, mate. That is something I need to take heed to, because it is true. Like, putting yourself in the other person's foot, the only thing we are thinking about when we're sinking is, how do I stay afloat? How do I keep them happy? How do I make this right? And then you're thinking, they're saying, I need money, I can't feed my kids or whatever. And you're thinking, oh my God, I'm borrowing money from family. I went through it too. In May, my wife left me, took my kid, had a no contract order on my wife. I've been homeless for 3 months. I've been luxuriously homeless, living in beautiful Airbnbs, but I'm still homeless. So it really does have an effect. Like these, but you know what? The failure in terms of a business, I don't look at it as anything bad. I learned so much, and the amount of failing that I did have that got me to where I am, I'm 20, 30 years ahead of most people that have been doing this a long time. And I'm confident in that. So the last two things we speak about, one thing I'm really, really interested in hearing more about Magentic. I've heard a lot of things about it. That is definitely something interesting. But we're going to do a quick role play. And the role play is going back to Steve at 18 years old. And you're walking, you're you right now. You've got all the knowledge, you've been through all the experience, and you find Steve Schmidt, 18, and he's sitting on the bench. And he goes, who the fuck are you, dude? Why are you trying to sit down next to me? You say, hey, buddy, I'm you. I'm you from the future. Okay, what do you want? I'm here to tell you one thing, buddy. I'm here to tell you one thing, and it's the roadmap to get to where I am in half the time. There's only one thing you have to do, and you cannot say 2 or 3. What is the one thing you tell 18-year-old Steve to do to get to where you are in half the time, half the mistakes, and twice the success? What one thing do you tell him?
Find the best person possible and do whatever it takes. Work for free. Read their shit, read their competitors, drown yourself in that person's knowledge at a very young age. Ask a lot of questions. Do more for them than they can ever do for you. And serve, and soak it up. And it ain't about you. And that would have made me so much better. And it would have helped me avoid the lessons, as stubborn as I am, that I went through. Because those people give it to you for free. They don't want any money. And now I'm seeing myself become that for younger people, where I don't pay me to be your coach. Like, just, I can tell you what not to do with a profit and loss statement. Like that might help. You know, I might be able to tell you, like, add 20% attrition and 10% on OpEx more to make you a better financial person. But ultimately, oh, that's great. Find the person who's going to teach you. And then, like me with AA or Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't look at it as good or bad. I want new sponsors all the time. Sometimes I don't use sponsors, but it's my fucking program. Yeah. And so that's what keeps me sober. Nobody else is calling me, and I don't have to go like, I don't worry about letting somebody else down, because the second that happens, it's over. Like, and so, you know, like, find that sponsor who's going to get you through the first 6 months. Message him on LinkedIn and say, Shane, I heard your story on this podcast, man. I'll work for free for you. I want to learn all your shit. I will I got 50 hours a week. I'll work for free. I had a guy do that, and he put in like 10 hours, and he's on payroll for 8 hours a week. Okay, a little bit more. Right now, he's working his way into like, Steve, I just want to learn how you do it. I said, here's the good news. I don't have this system that I can teach you that is a software program. A lot of this is objective, where you got to stand back and just go, what is going on in the context of this thing. I got to listen to this person on video, transform it into a post, and now write something that's going to capture someone's attention and get more of what they were getting from this last week. And that fucking pressure is intense, man.
It is.
But it's fun, you know? And are you sure this is going to work? I said, I'm not sure of anything, man. But like, send me a picture of you and your wife and 2 kids, because I'm feeling like LinkedIn's going to fucking like that today. And AI is not going to give you that, because I'm just looking at the pulse of it and going like, right now, people need trust. And I would tell somebody like be as trustworthy as possible on LinkedIn. Make people fall in love with you and trust you. And, and certainly a mentor telling me that at a very young age, that if they would have said to me, if I would have been unstubborn enough to say, what is the secret? Get as many people to trust you, not like you, to trust you as humanly possible. And the world is yours, man.
Mate, that is some fucking solid advice. Absolutely solid advice. So let's wrap it up with this. Magentic, game changer. Get your LinkedIn on steroids. Get more exposure, get more reach. So I'm a new customer. Steve, what is Magentic?
You're a new customer. So for the first week, we're going to look at your CRM and all of your messaging and come back and say, okay, here's the plan for the next 90 days. It's likely going to have a podcast. We're likely going to curate all of the guests for you after you give us a list of your top 500 prospects, taking out all the fluff. We're going to provide a post-guest experience tied out to the CRM. We're going to start to interview you weekly and get micro content and write for you. You being the founder, the thought leader, we want to make you magnetic. The law of magnetic, 80% of people will never have an opinion of you. 10% will hate you, 10% will love you. And those numbers are fluid. It is not going to be the same amount of people. So we look at that and go, okay, if the law of magnetism says that, then why don't we look at your TAM the same way? We want 10% of the people to be loving you. And if we can convert 2% of that 10% over 12 months, it's a no-brainer from an ROI perspective. How do we start, right? We toggle, we make YouTube, we make great thumbnails like Mr. Beast good. And now we're getting a search algorithm to try and show up in the, call it if you're a negotiation firm, the Jordan Petersons, the Alex Hormozis. Like, we want your video to pop and be next. And you go to call of action, sign up for a free workshop. Now they're in the funnel. Workshops converted 52% in 92 days. You finally have a measurement on what content is to you and the cost of content. And brother, like, the compounding effect of this is like nothing else. And the swell happens month 4 to 6, because now you've got 20 podcasts. You're getting a buzz, kind of puffing your chest out and going, holy shit, man. Like, people are asking me to speak at conferences now, and I'm getting asked to be on podcasts, and we're going, yeah, we're doing all this shit for you, man. Like, this is like, we're making you magnetic. Fuck the other 90%. Here's your 10%. Go.
That is what we need. That is exactly what we need. So today, if somebody were to take a page, a snippet out of Steve's book, and I mean a growth hack that they can walk away from this podcast and start doing today, okay, whether it's increasing revenue, increasing market share, increasing leads, whatever the case may be, where our realm and our arena where we shine. Yeah. Tell them what one thing can they execute today and start realizing success.
Create content constantly and put like everything you got into it. Be transparent, create it all the time, and never quit, because it's not about like, oh, in 3 months. It's the journey of creating the content will be so gratifying to you to go to your own journey. Bro, I went back 3.5 years today and watched a video in a parking lot with me on the phone where I'm like, hi, everybody. I'm looking account executive. Bro, I'm now running a content-led sales company. That's 3 years later. I fucked up a marriage and a business since then. But I've got a 4.5-year-old son who's great. His mom's great. Like, life's still good. And so here I'm going in 3 years, bro. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Chris Walker, watch out, because like I'm coming. And Chris is my biggest inspiration. But I want to be in that space with him and say, bro, you do revenue, I do revenue. Let's do revenue, you know? And like, that's the kind of like company that I'm building, but I'm not going to get 100 employees. I'm going to get a lot of freelancers, and you're going to see the domain that is magnetic, or go-to-market.com, go-to-marketplace.com. I have that URL. Within 12 months, I'm going to launch the biggest freelancer network to be able to plug and meet companies who magnetically are coming here and finding out the performance of the other, and then call it like, I have a need. And now we say, well, they're magnetic certified. There's a RevOps person, plug them in on this project, right? And so now we can sort of get this on deck feeling where it might be 8, 10, 20, but eventually I want to become that magnetic marketplace. And that's the ultimate vision. To build that out, and in 5 years, I'm done, bro. Like, I'm done. I'll see you on the ship.
Amazing. Well, look, Chris Walker was on the show, I think 2 weeks ago. So what I could maybe arrange, and I think it'd be cool, is to get both of your perspectives on how content is produced and shared online on an episode, if you're open to it. But before we go, content. You said content. Now, I always struggled with developing content because as a visionary, as a racing mind, I have so many thoughts. So how do you define, or how do you help somebody pinpoint the first piece of content to like, that's your start here, produce this and let it build on that, let it iterate from that one piece? What would you tell them to start with?
I don't tell them. I usually sit down with questions, Shane, because you want an honest and candid answer, and they're very uncomfortable with that. I say, do not talk about your company. Don't name your company, and just be honest. And I'll say, like, hey, Shane, like, tell me about yourself and your day to day. And they're like, well, at Steve Schmidt Incorporated, like, we're an industry leader. I'm like, let's cut it. And I'm like, okay, Shane, like, what the fuck are you all about? Like, what makes you tick when you wake up in the morning? And they're like my morning routine. I'm like, what do you do this for? And then pretty soon they're like, well, the problem that when I was 22 that I saw, and I had a unique perspective to solve. And now they're going like, I've got a stance, I've got a point of view. And eventually over 3 months, that gets good, right? Where they can articulate that. Because my job is to be Anderson Cooper. Like, I'm just trying to get them to be as real as possible. And then by month 4, when we start the podcast, man, they're good. Like, they are now able to host a podcast because they've been doing content.
Yeah.
And they're having so much fun with it because they're engaging in this. Dude, that conversation, as you know, is better than any discovery call you could ever have, ever.
Of course. Absolutely.
They're having 1 or 2 a week of the best calls they've ever had. And they're getting to know these people. And I'm going, great. And now we're gonna go convert that funnel, but we're not gonna be the dipshits who call you and go, hey, you were on Shane's podcast last week. We'd like to set up a 20-minute demo to show you the product. Give me an experience that I can remember. And I think that's the number one thing, not Sendoso, not a gift. I'm saying, bro, how did you make me feel when I got done with your podcast? And then how did you follow up with me? How easy did you give it the micros to me and say, Shane, thank you for your time. This moment really stood out to us. Like, here's this clip. Here's how to upload a thumbnail and download a video to YouTube. And give them like such a great guided experience. They feel like they're on a fucking resort in Mexico. And they're just going, wow, man. And you're like, yeah. And then you're gonna be like, can I stay 2 more nights? And you're like, yeah, you can.
That's exactly the experience people should be giving to their customers and vendors should be providing. So look, what's next for Steve? As we wrap up, where can they find you? What is the best place to take advantage of the content you produce? But what's next for you, Steve? What are people supposed to be looking out for you on?
Yeah, I would be looking out for magnetic managed mail. And so we're starting to talk about it. We're in a partnership with anybiz.io, and we're going to essentially create conversational bots, very much not real people, to create machine learning pathways and conversations. So essentially, I'm going to try and tee up a conversation as a bot to you differently than I would to Steve, etc. Low cost solution. We're pairing that with LinkedIn, $4,000 a month. They get 6 LinkedIn posts a month. So it's like the starter package. And it took me 6 months to get to that offer and go, Alex Hermosi nailed it. Got to make a simple offer, right? 4,000, low risk. We got bots, females. Nobody knows they aren't real. They're already connected in your space. They turn up. They get about 2 meetings a week. 63% connect rate versus males at 24. Let's just be real. Like, nobody wants to talk about it, but that's like, okay, we're going to use data in our favor. And we plug in that low starter, and then they get that buzz, and they're kind of like, hey, Steve, like, we might want to do a podcast. And so it's our product-led growth. You can find me on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
And if you click the about, that's all my content. So it's just a link tree with all of my training, my courses. We're relaunching SOS on a new platform tomorrow because the other
Mm-hmm.
one sucked. And
Okay.
so we got that teed up on Kajabi. I'm going to give it away for free to everybody.
Wow.
So
Oh,
SOS
wow.
is going to be $0, and that's my system that I use to grow and use content as a lead magnet. So that will be free. You can find it
Okay.
on my About Us and give it away to everybody you know, because it's 10 sections of me showing you exactly what I do every morning for 2 hours to grow a $7.5 million business in 18 months.
Mate, definitely. I'm going to post that on the comment section when we put this up. Steve, you're a fucking legend, dude. Hats off to you. I know you've been through your run of the mill. You're still standing strong today. And the second business you've created, hats off. It's incredible, dude. So thank you for showing up on the show. And I really hope to see you again. Don't hang up. Let it just close. And then we'll do it. Give me a second. Let me just push stop. It will wrap up the recording.